Kia ora, my name is J.D. Let's read a book. This is Mirror Mirror, Who's the Killer by Kura Carpenter. Kura Carpenter is an Aotearoa author, and Mirror Mirror, Who's the Killer is a Wild Enchantment Woods-based, cozy mystery book. Let's get started. Ella Charming is a suspended fairy godmother, trying to keep her head down in the frozen kingdom of Wild Enchantment Woods, where magic is strictly forbidden. When a henchman turns up on her doorstep with a stolen magic mirror in his pocket and an arrow lodged in his heart, Ella is forced to get involved. With only the aid of a tattletale talking cat who works for the Wicked Queen, can Ella find the murderer before she is blamed for theft, or worse, magic. You really must have a good map in a fantasy book, I approve. Chapter 1. Market Day. Market Square, Charmington Township. The Queen broke her magic mirror? Uh-huh. Cracked the glass in two. The tiny lady with the pink bouffant hairdo standing in front of Ella's soup stall mimed a hand flick. I was just going in to do her hair, and smack! Hurled it against the wall. But whatever for, Goldie? It's worth a king's ransom, I know. Ella mulled over this information as she ladled a scoop of her gelatinous pumpkin soup from the cauldron to splat into the wooden bowl Goldilocks presented. Around the pair, the Charmington Saturday morning market was a bustling hive of goods, trade, and gossip, come first thing or last thing, summer or winter. Well, winter. It was always winter in Wild Kingdom now, thanks to you-know-who. Ella drew her black woolen cloak across her thin chest to ward off the chill mountain air. And do you know what the mirror said that upset our dear beloved queen? She asked, shaking the last stubborn drops of soup free from the brass ladle. If you're asking if it was another dreadful prophecy, I didn't hear the mirror say anything, and I didn't hang around. You know what Sybilla's like when she throws a tantrum. Goldilocks suppressed a grimace and then bobbed a dainty curtsy. Thanks for the soup. It looks, yum. How do you always get it so thick? Anyways, I'd best be off. Here's my donation for the hospital. She popped 2 silver coins into the little bucket beside the soup cauldron, on which the hand-painted sign once read Cinderella Charity Animal Sanctuary, but now read Ella Charity Animal. Aren't you going to have a spoonful before you go? Ella voiced, as her cat Tilly, who had been curled up tight on the Hessian sack of kindling, cracked her green eyes up at her mistress. Well, it's just you haven't lit the fire under the cauldron today, so the soup is cold, Goldilocks blinked. Was there a special reason for that? Oh no, I just couldn't get the tinder lit. It got a bit damp. Ella apologized. From the curled bundle of snow-white fluff, Tilly yawned and then nuzzled deeper into the Hessian sack, as if to say she didn't see the need for a fire anyway. Why didn't you ask anyone for help? The little craftswoman cast a covert glance at the northern wall of the market square, on which was painted in thick black letters across the grey stone blocks, Magic is forbidden. Standing under the painted warning, the girl who worked at the Crossroads Tavern, Robin, was slouched against the stone wall. In front of the lass, a selection of tall brown bottles had been set out on an upturned barrel. Robin wore her customary scarlet woolen cloak, the hood so low over her forehead that her eyes weren't visible. Was she asleep? Typical youth, always caught up in the moment and never thinking about tomorrow. Probably spent all night spouting politics at the tavern. Not that it was any of her business, Ella reminded herself. Goldilocks sneezed, and the tinder at the base of the tripod burst into flame. I guess it just needed more time to ignite. Magic preserve me, 'tis a miracle, Ella muttered drolly, and grabbed pine cones from the sack Tilly nested upon. Does it make that much of a difference, served hot? Of course not, and now I have the perfect reason for saving this for later, for lunch today, blustered the small lady while stooping to tickle Tilly under the chin. almost as if she wanted to avoid Ella's eye. "I do love to see how much you enjoy it," Ella insisted suspiciously. Surely Goldie liked the soup. Everyone always told her how much nicer it was since she removed the skins. Even Arthur, and he owned a cafe now and knew a thing or two about cooking. Ella admitted she'd had a shaky start, but having never cooked for herself when she lived at the castle. But, "Oh, it's terrible, isn't it? I tell myself, surely it's improved, but who am I fooling? I should go back to candy apples. At least they were tasty, even though they rot your teeth." "Nonsense, it's fine. I just forgot my spoon." Goldilocks slapped her forehead. "Goodness, speaking of forgetful, I must be off. I've still got to go to Sybilla's hair, to do Sybilla's hair before the big announcement." The little lady turned and disappeared into the crowd, only her immaculate bouffant visible as she wove through the Charmington townsfolk. Ella tapped her toe and glanced up at the Queen's balcony, then back at the faded sign on her donations bucket. The last time the family magic mirror had spoken a prophecy, their sister Cinderella had died, and Ella's life fell apart. Wishing not for the first time that she still had her wand and her powers, Ella pushed the regret deep down. Feeling sorry for herself wasn't going to fill the charity bucket. There were more injured animals out there that needed her help, just like Tilly had once. Although in truth, hadn't Tilly saved her? Saved her from facing another night of endless winter, all alone in her cottage deep in wild enchantment woods. "Lawks, I've got dust in my eye," Ella muttered out of habit while blinking away the sudden irksome sting of regret. Hold your head high and carry on. That was her motto. Turning her eye wipe into a casual stretch, Ella looked around the marketplace. She had planned on buying a loaf of salt-crusted sourdough for her and Tilly's dinner. A slice of buttery toast beside the fire tonight would chase away her foolish melancholy, but there was no sign of the baker's stall. "Robin, dear," Ella called loudly to the sleeping teenager, "have you seen your Aunt Ginny today? I'm out of bread." "Has it occurred to you that there might be more important things going on than sourdough?" Robin grumbled, pushing the hood from her eyes, when at that moment across the way the clip-clop of a pony's hooves, echoing through the portcullis archway, preceded Baker Bron's cart rolling into view. "Never mind, dear. There they are," Ella replied with false cheer. "You can go back to your rebellious act of napping." But only Baker Bron crossed the wooden bridge into the market square, and without a nod or other greeting to any of the other stall-holders, jumped down from his cart to set up his trestle table. Odd. Usually Ginny manned the couple's stall at the weekly market. Ella wandered over and helped the ginger-haired baker spread a red and white checked cloth across the rough-hewn wooden tabletop. From the back of the cart, Baker Bron unpacked willow baskets of baked goods. Ella eyed the overly browned loaves and gingerbread men with burnt toes. Ginny loved to decorate the little biscuits, giving each one its own personality. She would never sell uniced biscuits, let alone burnt ones. "Where's your wife, Ginny?" "Sick," Bron muttered, not meeting her eye. He had bags under his eyes, and his clothes were wrinkled and covered in more flour than usual. "Mind your own business, old woman," Alice scolded herself, and led Bron's fat pony to be hitched beside her own donkey, Tinkerbell. She clasped the water pump handle and refreshed the trough for the pair. Above the castle courtyard, the ornate lead-glass door to the Queen's balcony suddenly opened. "Absurdity!" rang out Sybilla's voice. "The mirror lies! I am Queen!" And then the door banged shut. "Our Queen is having a bad day," Alice said, scratching Tinkerbell between her soft grey ears. "She's not my Queen," Robin muttered, crossing her arms, her breathing fanning out in indignation on this frosty morning. "Nor mine," Ella thought, but aloud said, "And how goes the revolution?" before threading her way through the market-goers to her side of the marketplace. Magic preserve, the lass should learn to hold her tongue, keep her head down and stay out of trouble. "Only cowards stay silent," Robin pushed off from the wall and went to trade a bottle of dark, bitter brew with Baker Bron for a suspiciously solid-looking roll and burnt gingerbread man. "Cowards get fewer people hanged," Ella muttered to herself as she thought over the fragment she'd heard Sibylla spout. Whatever could the mirror have said to upset her sister? Sibylla was queen, that was indisputable, but being queen didn't equate to a life free from irritation. Ella had discovered that life was full of unwelcome nonsense. People you loved died. People you loved didn't love you back. Best to shut everyone out. Then you had no one but yourself to blame. Yes, indeed. That was the truth. "Are you helping me draw in customers today?" Ella addressed Tilly from the curled bundle of snow-white fluff. Tilly opened one green eye, yawned, and then nuzzled deeper into the Hessian sack. "People don't want to pat an old lady," Ella told her unhelpful cat. "They know I bite." Ella inspected the orange mush in her cookpot as heavy boots echoed across the bridge, and two of Queen Sibylla's henchmen entered the courtyard. Axel Luther, Sibylla's head henchman, was shaking his finger at a fresh-faced recruit. "Do I get to ring the bell?" the younger blonde man asked, eyes fixed on the heavy brass handbell which Axel lugged over one shoulder. Magic preserve! Ella experienced a jolt of déjà vu. The young blonde henchman bore a striking resemblance to Arthur, a monarch in the neighbouring kingdom of Avalon. Was this doppelganger a young prince pretending to be a commoner? Ella huffed. What a lousy idea. Tricking innocent people. Come to think of it, that had been Arthur's sense of humour, the odious man. "No way," Axel waved off the plea. "Bell ringing is the captain's duty. Watch and learn, Junior." The young blonde recruit nodded studiously as Axel plonked the bell down and began ripping old wanted posters from the official notice board. Despite the current lesson in administrative paperwork, the recruit's attention wandered and was caught by the slim form of Robin basking in the watery sun. Her hair split in luxurious dark curls as she pushed back her red hood to reveal an attractive, heart-shaped face. "Good day," the young man approached Robin, eyeing her collection of brews. "Elderflower, thistle, black currant," he read the labels aloud. "They sound enchanting." Robin bit the head off her gingerbread man. "Don't sell to lackeys." The young henchman held up his rather large hands, palms outwards. "Pardon my presumption." He stepped back and turned away, not wearing a look of dejection, as Ella had expected, but a smile. Odd. Very odd. "You're wasting your time with that one," Ella said as the young henchman crossed the cobbles and loomed over her cauldron, now bubbling thickly with soft pumpkin plops. His smile only deepened as if pleased to accept a challenge. "Master Spicer says a friend hard won is twice as loyal." Ella stared up at the boy. He certainly had the build for henching. 6 foot going on 7 if he was even an inch. "What a beautiful cat!" The lad crouched down and peered curiously at Tilly. "You can pet her if you're gentle," Ella offered. The lad looked abashed and stood up to loom over her again. "Wish I could. I wanted to apprentice to a vet, but I'm allergic to cats." Ella found herself saying, "Has anybody ever said you look like the king?" The lad patted his downy cheeks. "That's partly why Master Spicer made me grow this beard and take a summer job out of the city," he said. "Tom, from the right angle you resemble Prince John a bit, and if somebody notices, well, you don't want to end up like Davis." "Davis?" Ella blinked. "A boy who sort of vanished. I mean, they found most of him. Eventually." The young henchman shuddered. "Anyway, it's silly. Sure, every orphan wants to secretly be the long-lost son of someone special, but Prince John is barely 30, and I'm 23. So what if we have the same nose?" Ella dredged her memories for Prince John. She recalled a sharp-eyed child she had met about 25 years ago at some banquet. "I meant King Arthur from Avalon, not John from Sherwood," Ella corrected. "King Arthur?" Tom laughed. "He died decades ago. Gosh, you must be really, really old." "How rude," Ella muttered under her breath. Old, was she? Well, she'd been telling herself all morning to mind her own business, and it was high time she took her own advice. From here on in, the lad could look after himself. Licking his lips, the lad pulled a horn spoon from his pocket. Pumpkin? His question jolted Ella and reminded her purpose for being there. When had she last stirred? She dug the ladle deep into the soup, sluggishly scraping the bottom, turning over black burnt bits and seeds. Look, he swallowed hesitantly, but patted the coin pouch, belted to his hip. A serving, if I may? Oh, Ella shrugged, helpless. My regulars bring their own bowls, see? She squinted up at him in the frosty air. Lawks, he was a big un. The lad's pleasant face clouded, then brightened. He rushed over to Baker Bron, who spluttered something, immediately handed over a loaf of bread, and then stood back gaping at the formidable presence, and then blinked at the 2 coppers in his hand when the Queen's newest henchman actually paid him. Poking a hollow into the tough bread, the young man returned to Ella's stall and announced, Bowl! Uh-huh. Ella took the offered bread and scooped a large helping within. And you are? He bowed low. Forgive my manners. Tom April, at your service. April? Named after a month. Definitely an orphan, then. A polite henchman at my service? Magic preserve, what an odd day. Ella glanced over at Baker Bron, still clearly startled at being paid. Axel never paid. Just leered at Ginny and licked the icing off the biscuits. She handed the bread and thick orange contents over. Tom held out his palm in return, a selection of coins presented. What's the usual donation? Ella shook her head. First bowl is on me. Have you been a henchman long, Tom? Tom laughed. Guardsman. We prefer guardsman. Potato, Ella thought with an internal shrug. And just a few weeks. I love all the snow here. It's like Christmas every day. He took a large spoonful of pumpkin and shoveled it into his mouth. His eyes went wide. He blinked. Eventually he pushed the mush from one side of his mouth to the other. Maybe it was too hot. Ella folded her thin arms. To your liking, Tom April at my service? Tom chewed. Cracking was audible. He swallowed. Crunchier than it looks. The creak of door hinges above made Ella look up at the castle. Queen Sibylla strutted out onto the balcony. Dressed in gold and purple, her sumptuous silk skirts accentuated her tiny waist and curvy figure. With sharp features, full red lips and pale skin, she was striking. Her long, dark, chestnut hair was unbound, giving her an appearance of youthfulness, as if no more than 30. Ella tucked a strand of greying hair that had escaped from her tight bun. Appearances were deceptive. They were the same age, exactly the same age, given that they were twins, though as far as most of the world knew, they were strangers. Their eyes met. Sibylla's scarlet lips curled back to reveal perfect teeth. Scowling wasn't unexpected, but she usually wore a smirk when lording her good fortune over Ella. Well? Sibylla glared down on her milling subjects. Baker Bron swiftly removed his cap. 3 cheers for the Queen! Hip-rah! 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 Tom April joined in enthusiastically with the crowd gathering under the balcony. Ella twirled a finger in the air. Huzzah! Much cheering. Get on with it! Sibylla commanded, her voice icy as the snow-covered ridgeline that surrounded her mountaintop castle. Axel cleared his throat. Right, listen up, Charmington rebel. He stood back from the notice board and gave the bell a half-hearted shake. Clang. Hear ye, by decree of Queen Sibylla, lawful and rightful ruler of Wild Kingdom, a week tomorrow there shall be a grand archery competition. Axel paused to point a finger at Bron, who clutched his chest as if stabbed, and then Robin, whose lip-curling expression mimicked the Queen's look of disgust, before he carried on. A prize of 1,000 gold coins awaits the winner. Ella gasped. Robin stood upright. Bron blinked. Tom April gave his superior the thumbs up while mouthing, Great speech, boss. That was a lot of money. A lot of a lot. 100 gold coins was more than a year's wages, but to give away 1,000... Ella shared a look with Robin, who for once dropped her tough act and looked as stunned as Bron. What was Sibylla up to? Axel shut one eye as if thinking. "Oh, yes. All magic is forbidden." He puffed out his chest. "Anyone caught performing, selling, aiding or abetting dark mages shall be dealt with most harshly." He flourished a gloved hand to the darkest recesses of the square, where dilapidated gallows lurked like a toad at a swan convention. Sibylla made a noise of disgust and slammed the balcony door shut behind her. Beneath Ella's cauldron the flames suddenly puffed out in a crack of roiling black smoke. Beside her, Tom April flinched. One of his large feet caught the tripod stand, and the whole contraption tipped over with a bang. "Oops," said Axel with a smirk. Ella held her tongue as the thick orange slop steamed and oozed over the cobbles. Tom grabbed the ladle and tried scooping the soup back into the cauldron. "I'm so sorry." Ella sighed and patted his broad shoulders. There, lad. Let it be. It could be worse." Her eyes unbidden sought the gallows. After all, no one died. So that was Chapter 1 of Mirror, Mirror, Who's the Killer by Kura Jane Carpenter. I must admit that when I started reading Mirror, Mirror, Who's the Killer, and even just looking at the front, I thought that this was going to be targeted at quite a young audience and be mostly focused on being a fantasy, cozy mystery without terribly much in the way of adult content. But I have to say that I am intrigued, to say the least. Mentions of much darker concepts than I thought would be there are very, very interesting, as well as the mystery in general, and of course the references to classic fairy tales are something that I'm looking forward to exploring when I read the rest of this book very shortly. Mirror, Mirror, Who's the Killer? Well, I'm recommending it for myself, so I'm definitely recommending it for you. The writing is solid, the map is very cool, which you need, again, for a fantasy. So that was Mirror, Mirror, Who's the Killer by Kura Jane Carpenter. Kura Jane Carpenter, again, is an Aotearoa author, so I will include details in the description of their social media and where you can purchase Mirror, Mirror, Who's the Killer and other works by Kura Jane Carpenter. Please check them out, support Aotearoa authors. And once again, thank you very much for watching. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more content like this, please subscribe, ring that bell, and feel free to comment in the comments below if you'd like to see more content like this, perhaps more books by Kura Jane Carpenter, if you want to discuss Mirror, Mirror, Who's the Killer, or if you want to suggest something else for me to watch, please feel free to comment. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.